Today I'm talking about emotional disconnection in your marriage or relationship. We're looking at 3 steps you can take to prevent it from happening. We're also going to be talking about the causes of emotional disconnect in the relationship at large, or in a partner, yourself or your partner. And at the end, I'll be talking about steps to take to really improve that emotional connection. So, if you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, thank you for coming back. My name is Elizabeth Ritchie. I'm a registered clinical counselor, and for many years I've worked with hundreds of individuals, helping them bust through blocks that have been preventing them from living their most happy and joyous lives. So before we get started today, be sure to hit the notification bell, give the video a like, and subscribe to my channel so you can be first in line for when my next video on building resilient relationships comes out. In my work as a counselor, one of the significant factors that bring people into my office to see me or working remotely over Zoom is emotional disconnection. It's a significant factor in many relationships that I see. And so, this information that I'm going to share with you today is going to give you insight into your own relationship. You can take the pulse of your marriage relationship, and I'll give you some tools that you can work with that improve that emotional connection in your significant relationship. So emotional disconnection can be one of a couple things. Emotional disconnection can be a choice. So it could be as if somebody, let's say they have a family member who is very disruptive, doesn't respect boundaries, maybe would be classified as a toxic individual, and it's somebody who's just wanting to put up boundaries and disengage and disconnect from that person. So that's sort of a safety precaution, and that's a choice. The other type of emotional disconnection in a relationship could be when somebody just gets flooded. They just get emotionally flooded when a difficult conversation comes up, something serious happens. If there's a lot of emotions from their partner, they just don't know how to deal with it, and they become overwhelmed. They haven't been taught the skills to deal with it. So what they may do is shut down. You might see behaviors like stonewalling, which is just not wanting to engage, not wanting to talk about the issue that's at the heart of the matter. And so that is just, they're not equipped. And so their defense mechanism is to shut down and become emotionally disconnected. Then there's a third category of emotional disconnection, and that could be when someone is basically emotionally blunted. And by emotionally blunted, that means emotionally numb. And somebody becomes emotionally numb because of the way they were raised. They may have been raised in an environment of abuse or neglect. It could be emotional abuse, physical abuse. Children need a lot of love, a lot of care and attention. And if their needs are not met, they learn over time just to turn off those emotional receptors. They just turn everything off and they shut down. So we're looking at 3 different categories people could fall into when we're talking about emotional disconnection. Okay, let's look at emotional disconnection 2 ways now. So the first is the eagle eye way. So we're going to take a top-down look, eagle's eye view of a relationship. So when we're looking at a relationship that way and how emotional disconnection comes into play, we might see that, there is issues that come from having, say, poor communication skills. And that's why there's the emotional disconnect there. It could be that you and your partner haven't been spending enough time together. So you're very busy with your lives. Maybe you have children as well. You've got your work, and you're just living parallel lives on different tracks, and you're not connecting. And so, that could be a reason for the emotional disconnection. Or in the same vein as that, maybe the physical intimacy in your relationship has stopped. So that's the eagle's eye view, looking at a few reasons why there could be emotional disconnection in a relationship. But let's say, you address these things. So, the partnership, the couple could go to couples counseling. They could get new and improved skills on how to communicate with each other. They could start setting up date nights on the regular and connecting with each other each week to talk about what they're feeling about the week ahead and what are the priorities. So they could do all these things and they could improve the relationship. But what if this has been done? What if this has been tried? What if you have gone to couples counseling and one of you is putting in the effort, but the other one isn't? That there's an emotional disconnect there still, despite trying all these steps. Well, what we want to do now is we want to take it down from the eagle's eye view and we want to look at things on the ground level. We want to look at things sort of on an individual level and look at what an individual reason for emotional disconnect could be. Well, as we briefly spoke about before, individuals with emotional disconnection can fall into a couple of camps. So the first area we talked about was people who are choosing to emotionally disconnect, put some distance between themselves and somebody that is triggering to them. The other camp would be somebody who gets overwhelmed, gets emotionally flooded, and that's why they sort of just shut down. And if you want more information on overwhelm, emotional flooding in a relationship, be sure to check out this video. Then we have another camp to those two that I touched on a little bit before. It's those individuals who have had a history of neglect, trauma, emotional or physical abuse. So with those individuals, they have just emotionally shut down. And how that may manifest as adults is that they have trouble expressing emotions, they have trouble managing emotions, they have trouble understanding their partner's emotions and what to do with them. They may just not be comfortable and they may have little or no empathy in this regard. So, the one thing to remember about emotional disconnection in this particular camp, one that's a result of childhood trauma or neglect, is that, the emotional disconnect is frequently a symptom of another condition. So that means that this individual with emotional disconnect could have a condition such as PTSD, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder. They could have, a personality disorder as well. So these are conditions that need to be addressed by a specialist. Have you ever had an experience of emotional disconnect in one of your relationships or your relationship right now? If so, please share in the comments below. All right, so what are some steps that you can take to prevent emotional disconnect from happening in your relationship? So, some of those we've already touched on. Things that you can do if you've taken an eagle eye view of your relationship and you've looked at it and you realize it just needs some tweaking. So some of the things that you can do is you can, as we talked about, improve your communication skills. Get better communication skills. Use some communication scripts. Use I messages. I am feeling this when you do that. You can reconnect. That's another thing you can do with your partner. You can reconnect. You can have regular date nights. You can make sure you just set up a time each week to sit down and talk to each other about how you're feeling and is there any issues. You want to get out of that roommate slump, right? And then, the next thing is keep in mind it's a mindset as well that the relationship, you both need to take 100% ownership for it. You both need to be 100% responsible for the state of the relationship. And, that means talking, as we talked about, communication skills. That means shared goals. Where do you want to go as a couple? Where do you want to go in your marriage and in your family? So that's the eagle eye view of steps that you can take that can either improve the disconnect that's already there or can prevent the disconnect from happening. But as we talked about, if we take it down to the ground level, to the individual level, and you've tried all those other things at the eagle eye level, and you've got a partner who is emotionally disconnected, then those eagle eye things are not going to work. They're not going to work if you've tried the communication skills, if you've tried reconnecting, and the partner is still emotionally disconnected. That's when that individual needs to seek out therapy, needs to go to counseling, would benefit from counseling and or medication. So that's where the specialist comes in, because it's pretty hard to fix the eagle eye stuff if the ground level stuff is shaky. It's not going to work. So you don't want to put couples counseling ahead of the individual counseling. So that partner, that is a step that that partner can take if they're willing, is to seek out the individual counseling and see a doctor about their condition. Because again, it could be the emotional disconnect could be a factor in another condition. It could be Asperger's. It could be PTSD, attachment disorder. There could be depression and anxiety going on. So there could be a personality disorder as well. So these things need to be addressed before the eagle eye stuff can be managed. If you want more information on emotional disconnection and red flags to look out for, then you might want to watch my next video, which is the red flags of emotional disconnect. Okay, so we talked about ways you can prevent emotional disconnect in your relationship. We talked about what emotional disconnect is. We talked about the causes of it at a relationship level and at an individual level, and steps you can take at both those levels to improve the connection in your marriage or relationship. If you've got some good value out of today's video, make sure to hit that notification bell, subscribe to my channel, and give the video a like. And I will have more videos coming out in the coming weeks. Thanks.